I knew deep down very early in my life, I knew that if you want to become somebody, then you can't avoid public speaking. I think we all get that, but we also have our own issues with it. And for me, public speaking terrified me. And it's that fear that was mixed with how much it meant for me being on a stage when I was once so anxious, self-conscious, afraid of being misunderstood and of failing. That was exactly what pushed me to go on a journey and chase one of my very first real dreams, which is walking out onto a TED stage. And I remember being as a kid looking at so many TED Talks and thinking that could be such a key marker for me to say that I've won that battle and that I fulfilled my dream. And my dreams as a young kid was very simple. It's like, imagine what it would feel like to truly be confident and to feel like your ideas and your thinking mattered and to be respected by other people. It was that simple for me. And the thing is that for a lot of people also, that public speaking is actually really, really tough. It's actually ranked as one of the top fears in the world, right alongside death. Around 75% of people, they experience anxiety around speaking, not just on a stage. Maybe it's just conversations in public, out in a social setting. Maybe it's voicing what needs to be said at work. 75% of people experience anxiety around their speaking. And about 5 to 10% have a clinical level fear. And from that, I can tell you firsthand that it's actually not about speaking. Your fears around public speaking are not really about speaking. It's about being seen. It's about judgment. And it's about that inner voice that whispers, what if I screw this up? What if they see me fail? What if I'm not good enough? And that's the contradiction that we get stuck in. The very thing you fear, standing on a stage or platforming your voice, you know it's also the fastest path to authority, to make an impact and to probably getting paid very well. But the moment you start to stand up, you start to speak and take up space, people automatically will also see you as a leader. Maybe that doesn't get communicated, but that is the real effect that starts to get created. And leaders get promoted faster. They close bigger deals. They command higher salaries and fees. And the best paid people in any industry aren't always the most skilled. They're the most known. And it's public speaking that makes you known. It transfers something powerful to us as social beings. And when you are a great communicator, it multiplies your visibility too. And visibility multiplies your opportunities. When we step back and we start to zoom in really precisely on business as a whole, particularly what I run, which is more of a service-based business and a creative business as an entrepreneur, at the core of that, it's communication. You're telling a story about yourself, about your product, about your service, and you're painting a picture of why it matters, the value that it holds, and the impact that it can create, and the outcomes people can expect to walk away with. And if you do that really well, it becomes your greatest leverage point. If you articulate those ideas clearly, if you pitch persuasively, if you move people emotionally, you don't just communicate, you influence. And that's when your sales rise. That's when teams strengthen. That's when partnerships grow and your impact has a deep effect and it multiplies out from that. And maybe for you, overcoming public speaking fears and blocks that you have around speaking, maybe it doesn't mean occupying a TED stage. That was just my dragon to slay because of my own unique experiences in life and because of the meaning my brain assigned to speaking on a TED stage because of the imprints that I had early in life. TED was a big thing when I was growing up. So yours might be leading a meeting. It might be pitching to investors or sharing your story online, but the principle is still the same. Forbes, LinkedIn, Harvard Business Review, they all say it. Communication is the number one skill that's tied to leadership and income. And one study actually showed that leaders who do communicate well, they earn 50% more across their careers compared to their peers that have the same skill, but they have a weaker expression. They don't know how to own their voice and command that room. So the reframe that we can start to look at, this is the thing. We want to start to reframe this fear. That is how we make this shift in our public speaking and in speaking in general. We don't want to recognize this fear around speaking or any fears around speaking, platforming our voice, occupying and commanding the room, making our needs and our position in relationship be respected. we don't want to recognize this as weakness. We want to see this purely as wiring. And this objectification actually takes the power away from the fear. It's not weakness, it's purely just wiring. It's human. And this is actually how I overcame my fears of public speaking, incrementally. It's your body in particular, but in particular your nervous system, I should say, that has wired itself to remain within a certain parameter of known safety. This is what is known as the window of tolerance. And to widen that window of what is tolerable for you, you actually have to stretch yourself. And when you do go to those outer edges of those boundaries, it's going to sound the alarm, the internal alarm system. And it can feel, for a lot of people, like I was saying, those clinical fears, 5 to 10% of people, like I was, when that alarm does get sounded, it can feel like and be a very, very real hijacking, where your higher thinking faculties are taken over, where you're actually responding from that younger, insecure self, and your power is withdrawn. We don't want to do that. But what we can do when we're inside that parameter, that window, and we have to learn to lead ourselves through it. And in my experience, it was picking up that hand of my younger self that's looking to be seen, heard, and integrated safely into the world. And then that same fear becomes fuel, and you learn to channel it. So you don't just speak, you do command the room because your whole energy is present. You communicate with the whole aspect of yourself. I want to teach you now as if I'm mentoring you one-to-one, but really I'm actually just taking the hand of my younger self. I'm talking to my younger self, giving him the exact secret sauce that I wish someone had given to me back then. For me, the journey was never about polishing a technique. In fact, I was probably the least polished, or one of the least polished speakers in that TED lineup. What made the real difference for me was that I actually stopped trying to fight to sound perfect. I didn't over-optimize for the performative skills of speaking or communication. And I started getting into real communication with myself. That was the journey. And I did this by breaking free of old patterns that were holding back. I had decades of self-doubt, self-sabotage, self-betrayal, of validation seeking, and this inner disconnect that I had to clean up. And it wasn't until I won that battle inside that I realized that no amount of presentation skills were ever going to help me. And it's the same for so many men that I do work with. They get stuck on the first layer of communication, obsessing and getting stuck in their head about what to say. And they get really hung up on the delivery mechanics. How should I sound? What should I say? What will they think of me? What if this happens? But that's not where true influence comes from. That's also not where the power of true communication arises from. It's the deeper visceral layers of communication, the deeper drivers that actually get your point across more effectively. 95% of our communication is all nonverbal. And the real block in that space is actually that fear of being seen that I'm pointing to. It's the fear of rejection, the fear of exposure. Because the truth is that true confidence, it doesn't come from these tricks or these communication hacks. In many ways, it's a mask. It comes from alignment and from owning your authentic voice, being clear on your purpose, and being in great and grounded communication with yourself. Because I truly have learned that if you do rely on anything other than being your authentic self, you project a weaker energy out into the world before you even open your mouth. And today, people pick up on that almost instantly. It's very reassuring to know that even the most successful men fear public speaking too. A former client of mine, he's now a really good friend, was a professional athlete who played on a world stage. He's done TV commentary. He's faced massive global audiences, the biggest sporting event in the world, the World Cup. And yet recently he gave a keynote in his business, and it shocked me when he said he was wrestling with a lot of anxiety and self-doubt. This came to a surprise because he's on that big stage, but it also got me thinking about how different types of exposure and different experiences also create different fierceness. And I've seen this a lot in my work too, and I thought, how is it that sometimes even high performers are really confronted by this? These are the men that are at the top of their game. But even at that level, the fear does not vanish. It just shows up differently. The stakes actually feel higher. Success feels like a risk. It raises the risk. Speaking poorly feels like it could damage your reputation, your credibility, and your authority. I've seen this over and over again in people who have built something, they've built a very good company, a brand, Maybe they're a high profile person, high profile athlete. And then when they go and translate that over, it's actually very tough. In fact, even tougher than when they first started their careers, because they're now used to control within that window. And high performers tend to dominate in these controlled environments. But the thing is, on stage, audience reactions, nerves, it feels unpredictable. And the perfectionism gets amplified. And it's high standards that turn into pressure for flawless delivery, which magnifies our nerves. And the inner critic gets louder. And it's the visibility that puts you under a spotlight, with the voice inside saying, well, what if I slip? What if I don't measure up? And it's just that they haven't built the skill yet in that crossover. Mastery in business or sport, it does not automatically transfer to communication. And there's various aspects of our other areas of our life where the crossover is actually more confronting. Just because you're successful in one area doesn't automatically correlate. Without deliberate training and self-work, even high performers feel exposed. And the very men who fear public speaking the most are the ones who actually need it the most. Because their words, if articulated with conviction, have the power to move people, to build trust and multiply their impact. There are 5 main roots of our fears around public speaking. The first is biological wiring. It's your nervous system that thinks rejection or things going wrong that you can't control, it equals death. And that's why your body, it floods with powerful neurochemicals, adrenaline and shaky hands, racing heart, sweaty palms. All of that is not weakness. It's simply just biology. And like I was saying earlier, if you can start to see it as just simply biology, we can take control and not be such subjected to the fears of speaking. The second fear around speaking that we need to be aware of is the fear of judgment. It's not that the crowd scares you. It's your own inner commentary about what they may think. Perfectionism, the impossible standard of zero nerves, of perfect delivery, flawless timing. It's that pressure that freezes you before you even start. The third reframe is around uncertainty. The brain hates not knowing how people will react. Laughter, silence, blank stares, it fills the unknown with anxiety. The fifth and final is past experiences. You have to be aware of this. There's old trenches, there's old scars that are left on your minefield. Maybe it's been laughed at in class, mocked for your voice, shut down for speaking up. It's those moments that do leave a mark, and they replay every time you start to speak. They emanate and they come up from the underworld. It's with these 5 reframes that we start to see that fear isn't proof that you're weak. It's actually proof that your words or the moment actually matters to you. Because you don't just get nervous about things that don't count or that don't mean much to you. So remember that confidence actually doesn't come from waiting until nerves disappear. You'll be waiting forever for that. It comes from moving with them. Fear isn't the barrier, it's the invitation to go through. Now, before you go today, grab the Confidence Kickstart in the show notes. It's a communication cheat sheet, and I have a free mini training there to help support you even further. I've got 5 powerful frameworks there that help you resolve inner conflict and to help you speak with greater authority without second guessing yourself. And if you're ready to go deeper and get direct access with me, the Prosperity Mastermind is open. It's a high accountability mastermind with direct mentorship and assets for driven men who know that they're meant for more, but they keep circling around their potential. And inside, we break the cycles of self-doubt, sabotage, and hesitation and get you aligned and clear and moving forward so your results finally match your purpose. In the next episode that's coming, I'm diving deep into the meat and bones of self-sabotage so you can get into more control and more clarity and start turning it into real self-improvement. Don't miss that episode.